I was out on a wild mission. I really didn't know how it is going to work out. I had nothing in common there. It's a Naga tribe. I don't speak their language. I don't eat, the food they eat normally. Were a lot of insurgency movement at that time. And then that area is all under the Indian Army.
So we were never without food. There was always a supply of food. They'd come and give, sometimes they'd even give egg, chicken egg. But that was to show their appreciation.
Only we were using our own savings, even for helping the community. Apart, from our own livelihood and airfare up and down, which is pretty expensive. But we even had to dip into our pocket to buy books or buy seeds or whatever. Once we are with them, we can't draw boundaries that we'll only do agriculture, we only do school.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cafe Rainy Days. Today, we've got Mr. David Gandhi. Namaste, Dada.
Namaste.
And we've got Usha ji Gandhi. Namaste, Usha Tai.
Namaste.
So, David ji, he is a very experienced agricultural scientist, but he spends quite a bit of his time towards the northeast, mainly in Meghalaya, Manipur, those sort of regions. They are originally from Pune, so you can imagine from Pune the distance to the northeast and where they are living. And same with Usha Tai, of course. Both of them belong to Pune and they moved to Aben, which is in Manipur. David ji, like I said, has been a very senior agricultural scientist, and Usha Tai has been a long-term educator. So I'm not going to say much because I'm just going to straight jump over to you guys. What prompted you, David Dada, to move from Pune all the way to Aben?
Thank you. It's good to be here. I'm speaking from Meghalaya, where I am supporting the government of Meghalaya to implement sloping agriculture land technology, which is SALT. So to answer your question, it wasn't a planned move. I had gone there to do an evaluation for an NGO for their natural resource management and agriculture program. Usha had accompanied me at that time. This was in 2016. And looking to the situation there, I felt I needed to have some more exposure and interact with the people and the land and understand more before I would be in a position to actually contribute anything. And those areas are so remote, you cannot go up and down. I was just prompted by an inner voice to stay there in this last village which we had visited. That's Aben in Tamenglong district. It was a rainy day and it was already dusk. So there by 5 o'clock it's dark because we are right in the far northeast of the country. And we were just sitting there with the village elders and discussing. And I got this little feeling that I would like to stay in this village. So I just suggested to everybody present out there that I'd like to stay here. Would it be okay? I don't have any NGO or any project or any money. In fact, I made it clear that nobody would even pay me a salary to stay there. But I said I'm willing to stay here and contribute in whatever way I can from my experience and knowledge. I've studied agriculture. The people also have a lot of knowledge and experience. So I said we can put our heads together and try and look at the challenges they face. So they agreed. I went back to Pune and wound up all my pending work because I was working as a consultant for many years. And then 1st of October, I landed in Silchar, which is the nearest airport in the state of Assam. And from there, somebody picked me up and took me across to Manipur, and then I finally reached Aben.
So how long would this have taken you from the nearest airport to Aben?
Actually, it would take 2 days because from Silchar you cross over into Manipur at Jiribam, which is just an hour and a half or 2 hours. But from Jiribam to Aben, there is no connectivity. There's a very poor road, a forest road, and one has to actually arrange some special transport, a four-wheel drive vehicle. And fortunately, this was October, so the rains were over. The road had opened. Others during the rains, It's a dirt road, so it gets all muddy and you can't use it. Normally, it would take a day, but the day I landed in Silchar, and I was informed that there's a indefinite Bandh in Manipur,
Oh.
which was quite common at that time. So that Bandh took 10 days. So during that time, I saw some places around, and then I finally reached Aben on foot
Oh.
because being a Bandh, there was no traffic allowed. So part of the way I got the lift, and then I had to walk through the forest, spend a night in one of the nearby villages. And I reached there on a Sunday in October on foot. That was the beginning of my journey.
And did Usha ji accompany you at the time?
Not at that
At
time.
that time, I went alone. Actually, we had not discussed too much about Usha joining me because I was out on a wild mission. I really didn't know how it is going to work out.
You thought she would say, "You stay there."
I didn't even know how long I would be able to stay there because
Right.
I had nothing in common there. It's a Naga tribe. I don't speak their language. I don't eat, the food they eat normally. And, that's a very difficult area apart from the lack of infrastructure. There were a lot of insurgency movement at that time. And then that area is all under the Indian army. One really can't predict. Even now, we can't predict. Like this time, May onwards, there's violence. So past 7 months, everything is closed. You know. Uh, yeah. So I was alone at that time, and Usha joined me later in the month of December, I think. No?
That was pretty quick. You knew that you would like to live there as long as possible for near future.
Yes. I had been a consultant for many years. I started out as a grassroots worker with NGOs, working with farmers in rural communities. And then, as my career progressed, I took up consultancy, which allowed me more flexibility. You know,
So, as a
Uh,
consultant, were you already visiting those regions?
no, Northeast I had visited for the first time earlier in 2016. That was
Right.
May, June. I'd never been earlier to the Northeast, but I've traveled all over, so I'm quite used to such places. I had it in my mind that I would need to stay there for some time. So I was unencumbered. As a consultant, you have a scope of work and a timeline and deliverables. I had nothing like that.
So, Usha, did you know this is going to land you in the Northeast when Dada first went in October?
Well, I look at it very symbolically. It was 2nd October
Right.
2016, Gandhi Jayanti.
Right.
So, and David has always been very social minded.
Yes.
He has always worked with rural communities. That's how we met also in a rural community setup only. What he was doing was no surprise to me, but the way we reached Manipur and Aben, that was, I think God's hand was there very, very much in it because we've been, we have traveled a lot, but we had never been to the Northeast. We reached there on a dark and stormy night, if I may say so. Thunder, lightning, we had no idea where we were. It was pitch dark, raining away. In fact, we used to ask the NGO partners who we were traveling with that, is there really a village at the end of this road? We saw Aben only the next morning. It was beautiful. I think we just fell in love with the place the next morning. We just loved it. Then, as David said, as his meetings proceeded with the village elders and all, he began to see that if anything has to be done to that for the farmers there, for the people there, he would need to stay there. Of course, it was a big shock for me when he said he's going back because we had never discussed anything. He went ahead in October. And I don't know if you recall, in November, government declared the demonetization.
Oh.
So David was had set about making a small living space for us, bamboo and half bamboo and brickwork construction house for us to stay, because where would we stay? I mean, you cannot be with it, as a guest in people's house for long. and he had collected with great difficulty money from the nearest town ATM to pay the construction for the construction. So on 9th of November, he found himself with absolutely useless notes and currency.
Wow.
So you can the 500 rupee notes were out,
Yes.
no?
Yes.
So then he called us, and I said, okay, let me see what we can do. And it took us 10 days to put together about 50,000. On 2nd of December, then I flew to Silchar, and he was there to pick me up, and onward journey to Aben happened. So that was my journey to
So did you
Aben.
have to also walk to Aben? No, not unlike Dada, you got
Uh,
transport.
I think it was one of the bumpiest rides in my life. At times, there were no road, it was just rocks. And those vehicles and those people who live there, they are amazing because I couldn't even imagine having to do this on a regular basis. We
But what was
continue.
your background, Ushaji? I know you're an educator, you were a teacher.
Yes. See, my education and what I do, ultimately, it did not have any connection. Although I worked in the NGO sector for many years, about 12, 13 years, I have worked in the NGO sector myself. So I'd received a lot of exposure to rural communities, rural setup, and even a rural life. We have lived in rural situations before. Otherwise, I have a bachelor's degree in microbiology. Where my father was transferred, we didn't have the facility for post graduation in microbiology. So I ended up doing an MBA. But my interest in education goes back to my own teachers. I had wonderful teachers. So I didn't work, that is, didn't take up a job. I tried to make learning an interesting experience. It started with my daughter, and then I began to extend it outside. So I came across unconventional ways of teaching children, which I did for 5 years in my private capacity. So that's where the interest in education came from.
That's amazing. So, Dada, Ushatai said that you had met in a rural setting. Tell us about this love story as well, please.
I had gone to work in a village of Paithan Taluka or Aurangabad district, on the border with Bid
Yes.
district, where I was actually, that was drought years, and people used to depend on these hand pumps, fitted onto bore wells for drinking water. So I was coordinating a project, to repair these bore wells and provide safe drinking water. Usha joined, I think, 6 months later. She was doing some research on biogas. Government was pushing biogas as under
Mhm.
the non-conventional energy approach.
Mhm.
So that's where we ended up working together in this small NGO in Paithan Taluka. And it was a very remote villages NGO campus, so we had a lot of time together. And that's how then we decided to stay together.
When you said hand pumps, I had visions of this Bollywood film where Ushaji is doing the pump and here and all this. So it looks like you guys were really, really used to rural setups and living in these very remote rural areas. When I have to go and live in these off-grid places and just manage with compost toilets for 2 nights, I don't like it. Let's say I decide to visit you. What I can think of is no electricity. Toilets will be funny. Accommodation may not be the way it is.
No,
Not.
no, no.
But what else? What else should I expect?
It's not that rustic anymore. When I went there, I was staying in, what they call a church guest house. Those days, it was just a timber and bamboo structure with a tin roof and a mud floor, where you have people traveling from one village to another, so they stay. So I stayed there, and then I requested for a small piece of land to build a house. So they gave me a small piece of land next to the church. I wanted to build somewhere far away, but they said, we cannot protect you because it is a forest area. There are insurgents, passing by, and you're an outsider, so it's not safe. So we'll not be able to protect you. So you uh, can build your house in the village itself.
Mm.
So it was a small piece of land, very windy location. But anyway, so I engaged them only to build a house. So they went to the forest, they selected the tree, they cut down the tree, they made the posts and the beams, and they went to the bamboo groves and they cut the bamboo and prepared it to make the house. And by I think end of December, it was ready, and we moved in.
Yeah.
It was one cabin, one room cabin. But the Nagas are very, uh, and most tribes, in fact, they are very clean people. So they already had toilets, but they
Okay.
were outdoor toilets with an Indian pan
Mm.
and sort of a soak pit or a septic pit, not a tank, a pit behind for the sewage. And they would have a little bamboo walls around it for privacy. And that was a distance, maybe 25 to 30 meters away from the house. But I, insisted that they make a toilet attached to our house. So they thought that would be very unhygienic. But I said, we are not going to go out in the dark and in the rains to the toilet. The back veranda, we made a small kitchen. And, there's no gas. So we were actually cooking on wood, firewood. So even if you have to make a cup of tea, you have to light a fire on wood,
Wow.
which is quite a chore. But yeah, we managed Usha and me. We lived there for 3 years quite happily. That we didn't really feel it was a huge drudgery.
Mm.
And we were with the tribals and they are living the same life. So we got to enjoy it. And I was busy visiting the farmers, and Usha, by that time, she was involved in the school. We were not really so focused on our comforts, but we were comfortable enough. Let me put it that. And our needs were very little. We went there with that mindset. We don't need a fridge and a washing machine and a mixie and a gas, and we didn't even miss them. We used to buy rice from the farmers, the Jhum farmers, hill farmers. We used to buy rice from them, or they used to give us some rice. And there's no shops, so on on Sunday there's a church service, and in church we have the practice of giving some offering. Normally in the cities we give some money as a offering or contribution to run the church. But in the villages, they don't have money, so they give some produce from their farm. In the cultivation season, if they have some vegetables, they will give vegetables. In the off season, they will give a pumpkin, or they would give a couple of country eggs, or some would even give a chicken.
Oh,
So after church, you are able to buy. If you have money, you can buy some of what they have given as offering. So that used to be our week, shopping for the week after church. So we used to go and see what is available
wow.
to buy. The only thing we used to buy from the city, and with great difficulty because there is no vehicle going up and down. But we like to eat chapatis at night. So and there's no wheat grown in that area. So we used to buy Ashirwad atta, from
Mm.
Jiribam. We used to request somebody to bring when they are
Mm.
coming,
Mm.
and then some milk powder because there's no milk in that
Yeah.
area. Nobody drinks milk.
Mhm.
So we used to
Oh,
get milk powder and oil. People don't use cooking oil because they don't have money to buy oil. And the next thing, of course, was sugar. They don't use sugar either because that has to be bought. Their diet is, without any oil and sugar, and so our diet was also restricted.
mm.
And that we were quite healthy at the end of it all, if I
Yes.
may say. But initially, I was till Usha came, I was just making khichdi, and I used to cook that once a day and eat that throughout
But
the
you
day.
you to learn how to light that fire and get it going? Or was
Yes,
it
yes, I had to
quick?
learn.
Yes, yes.
I used to be a scout, a scout in school, so I had
Yes.
learned some of the basics. But I had to learn from the locals. What type of wood is good and how to, to start a fire, you need the tinder.
Mm.
So how to prepare that and all.
Mm.
And especially in the rainy season, it is very difficult because everything is
Mm.
quite damp. Even the air is damp.
So how about you, Ushatai? Did you know how to, or you had to learn as well to put together a fire and cook on the...
No, that part of it, David had to do. I just didn't know. And you see, there is a saying, no, when a man helps you to do certain thing, you should let him do it. Because I was doing all the other things, no? And he took a lot of pride in that, I must say. And he managed to keep us going on that wood stove for 3 years. So, but then we learned that once the wood stove is on, everything should be ready. So we used to chop our vegetables and get the rice washed and keep it ready. And so the lunch used to be prepared first, and then we'd do our breakfast, because by 8:30 in the morning, we both had to leave the house. He used to join the farmers and I used to go to the school. Like David said, the getting the vegetables and all only from church we could get. I did miss my kanda batata, that I must say.
I don't get onions either or potatoes.
No, onions you don't get. And they don't grow potatoes also. So whenever we knew that a vehicle is going into the nearest town, Jiriba, from where the supplies used to come, we would request anybody that can you buy about 3-4 kilos of these things and bring for us. But the Naga cooking, Jeme Naga cooking, is very simple and very tasty. It is so pure. There aren't any masala as such. So on Sundays, I used to figure out with the women when they would call us for a lunch or something. Then I would see what they are doing and how they are cooking. And the food is tasty by itself, especially the jhum rice. It is not refined. It is not polished, so to speak. Fully organically grown, lovely rice. And I have to say that I think we were healthiest at that time. We would lose about 4 kilos because no junk food, no excess sugar, no fats, nothing of that sort. But we were very healthy. We were quite strong. It used to be cold. The winds used to be a little bit of a, if you can think it, then you can live it. It used to be like that. And David, of course, put all the solars. We had a solar setup. So we had 3 bulbs. You can put on 1 bulb at a time. So if we are in the living space and the bedroom space, then you put that 1 bulb on. If you go to the kitchen space, then you put this off and you go there. So that's how we lived. And it was wonderful. The women from the village, whenever they passed by our house, and if they were going back from their jhum, invariably they would leave a bundle of some of the beans that they were growing. They grow all their local food. It's all indigenous. They would leave a bundle of something like rai patta. They call it rai patta. We never figured. I mean, David might know, but I never figured what it actually was. Very tasty thing.
Mustard leaf. Mustard leaf.
Like mustard leaf. The women would leave something for us at our doorstep. So that I would make the next day for our lunch or dinner and all. So we were never without food. There was always a supply of food. When they would pass by the school, the nursery, or if I'm at the nursery or if I was at the primary, they'd come and give, sometimes they'd even give egg, chicken egg. It's a very costly thing. It's 10 rupees a piece over there. But that was to show their appreciation. They would give us a little bag of rice with a couple of eggs in it. So those are things that made everything so worthwhile.
Wow. So you know, Ushata, you mentioned just they would show their respect in that way. And I remember David Dada saying somewhere that you had to be actually accepted into the community with the proper like permission and ritual. How was that?
David had to do that. Yes. Okay. David had to go in front of the village elders.
There was no ritual. Actually, it was a necessity because they are a self-sufficient community. So they said if you're going to live with us, normally they don't allow outsiders to live.
Outsiders to live.
No. In fact, we would be the first outsiders actually to live there with them. But they said then if we, out here you are dependent on us, so you'll have to join our tribe. I don't think there's any precedence of people joining their tribe. So it was just a simple thing. They have what they call a village court. That's different from their village authority, which is like a panchayat. but they have a traditional body called a village court. Those are comprised of the elders of the village, and they take all the decisions, socio-cultural decisions and the like. I was supposed to go. I went before them, and normally, when you have a meeting of the court, or if you call a meeting of the court, then you have to present some animal to be, butchered and cooked. But in my case, because I was a volunteer and staying there for them, they said that no need, you just give some sweet tea with milk. You know, their tea normally is just red tea. They have their own
Red
tea
tea.
leaves which they cultivate locally, and they
Okay.
drink that, boil
Okay.
it and drink that. But on special occasions, they have what they call is sweet tea. So milk powder and sugar and some biscuits. So they said you can just provide that to the court. The pastor of the village, who at that time he was a chairperson of a sort of a development committee, he recommended me to the court. You know, that's a formality. Somebody is sponsoring you in a way. Then they asked me some basic questions: why are you here, and how long do you want to stay, and all these things. And
Oh.
I answered them in all seriousness. And then they accepted me into the tribe and said that you can stay as long as you want. And when you decide to leave, then again we need to have a meeting of the village court, and then you can appear before us and take permission to leave. That's about it. There was no ritual beyond that, and this was like a special case.
But that also perhaps provided you with protection and belonging, that you belong to this tribe, therefore.
Yes, because uh, everybody in the uh, tribe or in that village has to accept you. So basically, if you have the backing of the village court, then the whole village will abide by that. And not only that village, all the villages of that tribe, you
Mm.
know, there are a cluster of villages of the Jeme tribe. All of them then will abide by that decision.
Mm. Mm. What is the tribe
So,
called? What tribe do you belong to?
Zeme Naga.
Zeme. So you are a
There is a
Zeme.
tribe. Yeah. So actually, the tribe is Xilingrong. They have a common ancestor. So Xilingrong has three sub-tribes. One is Jeme Naga, one is Rongmai Naga, and one is Langmai Naga. So these are Xilingrong. And our village was the same Jeme sub-tribe. There was another issue is that the whole village is Christian, and out non-Christians are not allowed to live in the village. You know.
Oh.
Yes. So in our case, I am a Christian and Usha is a non-Christian. So
Oh.
that raised the issue about Usha. So, so our pastor offered to baptize her
Okay.
as a
Oh,
Christian,
wow.
so that she could stay in the village,
Stay there.
because they they wanted her to teach in the school, right? But then I made a case to the pastor, like, I'm a Christian and she's my wife, so that should be acceptable. No need to baptize her again. He accepted that again as a special case, and that never became an issue again subsequently.
Right.
They have accepted her fully as she is.
Finally, we come to the crux. You went there with this idea of salt farming. Tell us a bit about what the concept is and what were they doing before.
Actually, jhum is a local word. That's a agriculture practice. Every year they they are hill farmers, right? And they uh, select a piece of land every year, the whole village, and they will go and clear whatever trees, bamboo is there. This they will do, suppose, in the month of, say, November, December now, and then they will let it dry, because this is the dry season. And after Christmas celebrations are over, mid Jan onwards, then they will burn the jhum. Whatever biomass has been cut and dried, they will burn it. So that has two functions. That will clear all the undergrowth and the weeds and open the land for cultivation. And the ash is the fertilizer, because they don't use any fertilizers. They start dibbling their seeds, indigenous seeds, as Usha said. The main crop is hill rice. So this is different from our valley rice, which is irrigated. This is
Mm.
grown on the hill on rain-fed conditions.
Mm.
So along with rice, they will put all sorts of vegetables, brinjals and different beans and yams and tapioca, and some maize and millet and chilies. Chilies is their only cash crop. The dry chilies they will sell in the market around Christmas time, and with that they will do their Christmas shopping. Not fancy clothes and all, mainly second-hand clothes to keep warm during winter, and just some food items, that sort of shopping. They'll do only once a year when they sell chilies and they get some cash. I didn't have any idea of salt at the time. I thought I will improve Jhum, because Jhum is sustained over generations. And only now, because of pressure of population and, market cash economy, it's coming the pressure and it's not sustainable. But then as I went around visiting Jhum farmers, I realized that there are a lot of issues with Jhum in the long run. Main thing being that there are no young people in the village. All the young people have migrated for education and then subsequently for work to the cities. So previously, Jhum used to be done by the entire community, by the entire family. Very labor intensive. Everything is done manually. No income, no animals, no machines, nothing. So if there are no youth, then who is going to do this in the next generation? And then I thought, let me look for alternatives. And that's how I stumbled upon salt. So salt was not my innovation. It was an existing practice which emerged from the Philippines around 50 years ago, but it never really took root anywhere. I came across it and I thought that this is a good model. Let's try it. So that's how this whole concept of salt came about. And I didn't have any money, as I said. I just convinced three farmers to try it out, their own land.
Tell us a bit about salt, Dada.
Salt is the full form is sloping agricultural land technology, and it, as the term says, it is suitable for sloping lands. When you do agriculture on sloping land, the main challenge is soil erosion because you loosen the soil, and then it is washed away by the water or blown off by the wind or pulled down by gravity also, and the soil gets degraded over time. You may have seen terrace farming and all in many countries. Those are developed over many generations, those type of terraces, and that is suitable for some areas, not all. You need some good soil and all. Then another thing, but unique to the northeast, or especially for the northeast, is the heavy rainfall. So you have a combination of sloping land and heavy rainfall. So the heavy rainfall just flows down the slope and carries away all the soil and nutrients. So salt is designed to sort of meet these uh, challenges. We make some contour hedgerows. Contour is a line across the slope, and we plant some vegetation across the slope. And we use, what we call nitrogen fixing plants, like beans and all, which improve soil fertility. So we plant these across the slope to be barriers for soil and water conservation. So as the water is flowing down the slope, it is slowed down, it deposits the sediment and it flows down at a slow speed. And the nitrogen fixing plants improve soil fertility. And in the middle of these lines of hedgerows, farmer can cultivate what they want. They can grow vegetables, they can grow some rice, they can grow trees. So this is a type of system, and I thought it should work. I encouraged some farmers to try it out in 2017, and then we encouraged the other farmers to come and see what is being done on these.
So did you say there were just two farmers who were trying this out?
Three farmers. And in 2018, there was a lot of interest from the other farmers, and that's how it began to spread. That's how this whole thing about salt came about.
So Ushatai, when you went, I mean, I've read and I've heard a couple of your interviews as well, where you said you went and you were just shocked at the state of education over there. But tell us your first-hand experience when you went there. What was happening?
One of the first things that struck me was that we were well into 72 years of independence. But when you go there, you will go back about 20 years. The situation was so difficult.
I mean, the politics in the region and the weather and everything doesn't help. I suppose they're so remote.
I have to mention that we live in the mountain regions. So Manipur is clearly divided as the valley and then the mountains. So the tribes are mostly in the mountains. Both David and I, this is something we observed right away, that the infrastructure development or any kind of progress which we have always seen in mainland and we have taken for granted in mainland, that was severely lacking there. During December 2016, when we were actually talking to the elders, and after church service, the elders normally meet, and we also are a part of that meeting. So the request came from them that, can you please help us with the school? So I said, okay, I'd be quite happy to do it, and let me go and have a look. I was absolutely shocked. I mean, I just didn't realize that even today, so many advances in the in a normal daily case of life, but there, children don't even have access to an alphabet book. It's quite a difficult situation. It took me a while to understand it and, first of all, to accept it. And that's where it finally all started. I cannot let this go like this. I have to do something about it. One thing that David and I decided initially itself was that we will not talk politics and we will not get into religious aspects. So that is a message we gave out very much in the beginning itself. In our individual capacity, the best that we can do for your village is what we will do. We don't come with a lot of money. We don't have the backup of an NGO or a trust or anything. With that as the introduction, I set about to help in whatever we could. I did face a bit of resistance because, see, education is a very different thing over there. Teachers are appointed, but we have never seen an appointed teacher. Books are supposed to come there. They come 6 months after the school has reopened. Teachers, the so-called teachers, they are actually substitutes who take the place of the person who is actually appointed. Now, what the other person is, we have no idea. We did not even want to go into that because that has a different...
That again becomes politics, yeah.
Situation, yes. We realized that within about 3-4 months, we realized that we cannot ask questions. We have to do whatever we could do. No questions as to why is the headmaster not coming, and where is this person? Why has the zonal education
books?
Not got the books and all that? So we realized that we passed. I went first to the primary school. They have a little upper primary, that means up to the 5th standard and up to 6th standard. So I started helping there. Immediately I realized that the teachers have, those who are teaching, the substitute teachers, they are 10th or 12th pass from the village itself. Young people from the village who have, so this is something I liked about the villages, because the parents insisted that those who teach in the school should be 10th or 12th pass. So little bit of, they knew that, okay, we need somebody. Lack of training, okay, you are not providing any other facilities. At least can the government machinery do something for, make these people a little more capable of teaching? That didn't happen. So that was my first challenge. I requested the substitute headmaster that, can I take a training session with you all every week? Just give me 2 hours of your time to the substitute teachers. I said, I will just help them. But you have to remember one thing, that the school works around the agriculture system, the agriculture calendar. So everything had to be matched to the agriculture calendar, because these teachers were also farmers. They would finish school and they would run to their farms, because each family's food security came from the farm. So that was another hurdle that I had to tackle. Then this whole concept of an academic calendar, they would run the school when they thought it was best, when it was possible for them. The thing is, the children are brilliant. They were as good as any child in mainland, if not better, because they were so physically active. They were all the things that we teach in Montessori, the children were doing naturally.
Yes.
They had no concept of those things, but the child comes to school only when they are about four and a half. Okay, till then, they are the youngest sibling, and probably there will be another sibling. Each household has, on an average, 5 children. That is on the lower side. So that little thing also used to keep happening there. As I spent time there, and as we started interacting with the village and the village people and the mothers and the young people there, we realized there are a lot of other issues that we have to also consider before bringing, a mainland style of education over there. It was simply a huge challenge.
I mean,
So,
in many ways, Ushatai, that is where the thought process is slowly going, right? So, sorry, I just wanted to put in a point that in the West now, people are actually teaching children touch and feel and, go out into nature, and they are getting that already.
They were doing that, and that was see, those are things which help them in their circumstances. So we cannot interfere with that, and we should not interfere with that, because I noticed that only when that kid is about 4 years old, she had the strength to hold a pencil. Before that, their fingers are so tender. You can't make a child start writing the alphabet and things like that at age 3.5. So those things I realized very quickly. I would come back to Pune and I would speak with my sister, who is an educationist in her own right, 35 years of experience. And I told my sister, see, I'm dealing with absolutely difficult situation. Tell me how I can put little things in place for them. So I received a lot of help from my sister. So starting from 2017, then in 18, it became much better. If I had to teach anything, I had to provide the pencil, the eraser, the cutter, the book, the textbook. In 2017, we must have parceled more than 40 kilos of books, stationery, textbooks, everything for the children in Aben. We also noticed one thing was that in the nursery, about 20-25 children would be enrolled. That is lower KG and upper KG. But I noticed that in class 5, there would be only 2 kids. So then I sat down with them and I said, where are the rest of the children? So as the level of learning became difficult, they would drop out. And then they would go off and merge with their village life. They will go off with their parents to the Jhum. Or if the boys were still with the parents, then they would take them to work in the fields. The girls would be looking after younger siblings, do some part of the household thing. So I said, see, this is not very good. I'm all for women. So I said, you cannot take girls out of the school so quickly. If a family had to choose between putting a boy and a girl in the school, they would take the girl out and the boy would continue. So David and I, then we said that, see, we would sponsor the girl child. So we started sponsoring girl child from class 1, 2, 3 up to 4th standard. We sponsored the 3rd child of one family who would join the school. We said, we will take care of their books, but don't take them out of school. So in 2020, we had, in the nursery, we had 45 children. Can you imagine? 45 children.
Wow.
I came to know later that from the neighboring village, the relatives would send their children to our school and they would stay with their uncle or aunt in there. And in the 4th standard, we had 17 children.
Wow.
That's the way it went. I was scheduled to go back in April, but to another village. And the guest house where I was to stay during, normally in the month of March and April, the season change happens and there is storm and thunder and rain and heavy rains and all. So the guest house where I was supposed to stay, it blew off. The roof and everything blew off. So they said, ma'am, please wait. Can we just repair this place and then you come? And then 3rd of May happened. No? This year, I have not been able to go back. I'm in touch with some of the teachers, although because of the current situation, we have not been able to parcel books and textbooks and things. because then there is no guarantee where it will go. So this year, it has been a little difficult for all of us, even the children. But I have to tell you, totally hats off to those people there. In this difficult situation, they have somehow kept the school running. Can you imagine? Without anything, they have somehow managed to bring children up to the fourth standard, fifth standard level.
When you're working with social groups, to have that maturity of thought is so important. Like you said, you already said to them that we're not going to talk politics and we're not going to talk, what else did you say?
Religion.
Yes, that's it. Yes, no politics, no religion. And you must face these situations all the time, right? Where you have to keep these strong beliefs away apart, and for progress you have to be flexible. And
we accepted the fact that they have lived with very little and with so little support from a government infrastructure, all on their own. So they have something which is much stronger than we know. You see, we would not have survived in that situation. Their traditional values are wonderful. Their customs are absolutely suited to their situation. So who are we to, say anything else?
yes,
Once we realized, and even for the agriculture part of it, David took a year to think carefully, to look at what they are practicing, because there is a wealth of ancestral knowledge over there. So we worked on that.
Going by the same sort of thought process, what would you think? I mean, of course, you offered them a lot, but what would you think you gained, in the process?
Well, it opened a whole new chapter in my life
Of course.
and a new road actually. I was at the crossroads, and at that time I was 54, and I was already thinking about, now we need to do something else in life because consultancy was getting too prescriptive and not fulfilling because the development sector has changed. Now everybody's in a hurry. When we joined, we had projects which were very two-page proposal we had to write, and we could have a project for 10 years, 15 years, enough elbow room to, innovate and, change. But now everything has to be cut and dried. You have to have a project proposal which predicts the end result. Before you even start the project, they have to know what is going to be the output and the outcome and the indicators and everything. And development doesn't happen that way. You have to let the people, change their behavior, which is a process, and let them decide in what direction they would like to go. No, as but our donors would like to dictate everything from their air conditioned offices. And for me as a consultant who's in between the donor and the community, I found it was becoming increasingly difficult to bridge this gap, and it was becoming frustrating to try and convince the donors that look, development doesn't happen this way. But now they are all qualified, they have degrees in rural management and all that stuff, so they are not willing to listen. And now CSR is coming, corporate social responsibility. So they are corporates. They are in this CSR business to, for there's some laws which is why they have to do it, or there is some tax benefit. So the guys calling the shots are also corporate people. They are not, change makers at the village level. So it was getting frustrating for me. I was thinking I need to do something else. And it so happened that I ended up in the Northeast and in Aben, and this whole thing came my way. I gained, in that sense, I gained a new direction in life. Otherwise, most people, by the time they're in their late 50s, they are thinking about retirement. The rest of their retirement life is totally unproductive. They're living off their savings or off their pension. Between 60 and the time they die, which is probably 80, 85 nowadays, they don't do anything. I would have done the same.
20 years of your life.
Yeah.
Most people like that, if you look around you. But, I was spared that fate. So I had a whole new lease of life. And I gained a new insight, learning from farmers, because I was living with them. I really gained an appreciation. As a consultant, I was living in a city taking a flight and going down there and being there for some time and flying back, writing a report. And my health improved. Today I am now 61 and I'm walking, running up and down these hills. And all the staff who are in their 30s, they have to keep up with me.
Now, do you have one of those smart devices that count your steps?
No, no, never.
No,
I,
I
I'm
just
intrigued to see how many steps you guys do every day.
kilometers, no steps.
Yeah,
Kilometers,
kilometers.
kilometers going up and down. So I gained a lot, and then in terms of understanding about agriculture, because in college they don't teach you much. They teach you all the green revolution chemical type of agriculture. I had to actually, you know, forget all my college education and learn from the farmers.
Hmm.
And the salt model, it's not something, cut and paste from what the guys were doing in the Philippines. Because like I said, it has not taken root anywhere.
Mhm.
So actually we had to adapt it to the local conditions, not only the agroclimatic conditions, the farmer conditions. So we have come up with our own salt model, you know, for this area. So all this has, enriched my knowledge. And today actually I'm probably the only guy in the whole country and probably beyond the country who actually is doing salt. If you
Hmm.
were to go on YouTube and type salt, you will get a few theoretical presentations on YouTube. But mine will be the only videos of actual salt farms in the whole wide world.
Hmm.
You can, after this chat, you can try it out.
Yeah.
And I have my own YouTube channel now. In fact, just now I was doing a video before this chat, and I will continue afterwards. So I have my own YouTube channel with only salt videos. It's called David Gandhi Salt. The playlist is salt, and I share this with farmers all over as a tool for them to learn about salt and use it.
Hmm. So,
So
when you were talking about cash crop, Dada, you said their main cash crop is chilies. With salt, were you able to introduce more cash crops? And is there, I mean, is in the sort of lifestyle that they live, having money, is that, would that help? I assume it would.
yes, see, the current generation needs cash. I
Hmm.
mean, the parents need to educate their children, so they have to pay fees, then clothes and medicines and better food, and like the phone. Everybody has a phone now, and they need
Yes.
a recharge. It's very much a cash economy,
Hmm.
and in June there was no cash except for sale of few kilos of chilies.
Hmm.
But in salt now we have incorporated trees. What is spreading in the northeast now is things like areca nut, supari. They just planted there, and 10 years down the line they begin harvesting supari, and there's a very good market for it.
Hmm.
It can be kept; it doesn't need to be sold immediately
Hmm.
because when there are no roads, perishable commodities are a risk. But it is bad for the environment because it's the monoculture, and the
Oh.
land gets degraded. And now because of monoculture, a lot of areca nut plantations are dying because of diseases. So in the salt model, we can incorporate these things, but we introduce soil and water conservation, soil fertility, and soil health improvement. Then we don't encourage monoculture. Along with areca nut, they should plant other fruit trees as well,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they can continue growing yam and ginger and turmeric. Everything they can continue to grow.
Hmm.
Only rice they can grow in the first few years, but once the trees are bigger, they would have to limit rice cultivation. Jhum is on its way out. Like I said, the whole family used to do jhum, and
Hmm.
they used to sow a large area under jhum. But now the size of the jhum field has become very small because only the old people are doing jhum. And jhum rice gets over by December. They will harvest it in September, and by December it is over.
So, are they able to sell the jhum rice or
No,
no?
it's too
Oh,
little, only for their home consumption.
right.
And then they are depending on ration rice, and COVID they were getting relief rice, and all
Right.
very bad quality chemical rice, which actually spoils their health.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, they are going hungry, they are going to the forest, as they are forest dwellers. So they go and hunt and gather roots and tubers and mushrooms from the forest.
Oh.
They eat bamboo shoot a lot of the time. So salt has the potential to actually not only improve their food security, but also give them cash to buy food items and other needs of a cash economy. Now, our salt farms in Aben, which we started in 2017-18, now they are becoming productive. They should be able to start marketing their produce. Unfortunately, this year, because of the violence, things are at a standstill. After the Lok Sabha election, things should settle down,
Hmm.
and we should be able to,
Hmm.
enjoy the benefits of salt.
So I was also reading about Usha Tai's banana making machines. Sorry, banana chips making machines. Was banana introduced by you, or was
No,
it
no,
always there? Or
no, no. The credit for that idea goes to David,
okay,
because we noticed that bananas grow wild. It's there everywhere. For them, it was nothing. They would eat it if it was ripe on time. Now, they couldn't sell it because, first of all, the road wasn't there. No vehicle in the village to take it. And when they took it to Jiribam, they wouldn't get a reasonable price for it. So then David started saying, why don't you try? Show them how to make the banana chips, or show them how to make it. And I told David, see, boss, I've come here to teach. I am not going to get into cooking, if I may say so. So, but he said, no, just try, just try. So I just looked around there are about 5-6 varieties over there, bananas.
right,
The jungle variety has got those big seeds, so we cannot use that. And I identified 2 kinds which I thought would be suitable. One small slicer I had with me,
right.
which my friend had given. Diwali time we have that little haldi kumkum, and also she
Yes.
had gifted it to me. And for some reason, I had carried it with. Look where it goes, huh? So amazing, no? So I had this with me. I was using it as a grater only at home, and it had a very nice slicing blade.
Fine.
Now I had forgotten my recipe of how to make banana chips. So I called up my sister in Aurangabad. She called her mother-in-law in Kerala,
Oh,
and we got the recipe. So that is
right.
how we got the recipe.
Wow.
It was so wonderful. So one Sunday after the church service and all, it was announced. They announce all these things over the speaker system over there.
Right.
That madam will be making banana chips. The whole village turned up over there. Oh my goodness. But sitting in front of that wood fire, they have these huge wood fires. Okay. They don't have small stoves and things, not like how we have. They have big, they will have one wood fire, because in one household, there'll be only one fireplace. So that is a custom that they have. So uske samne I sat down. I figured out my procedure and all. Then I showed them. You use raw bananas on the verge of ripening. Okay. So I showed them how to peel the skin and everything. And we set about making. And it turned out very well. So before it left the kitchen, it was getting eaten. The women were eating it before it left the kitchen. So the red tea was made on one side. These banana chips were made. And the elders were sitting in the meeting room waiting for the chips. And that's how it started.
Wow.
I think 2 days or so after that, there's a lady at my door. She's asking, Madam, can I have that slicer? Wo slicer humko dega. They took it, and my slicer, I never got my slicer back. That slicer I never got back. And it made the rounds in the village. And we came to know that many women were making these chips in their homes, giving it to their children. Some months later, we came to know that the women from the village down in the river valley, they were making banana chips. So then the question came, okay, we need slicers.
Right.
So I called up my friend here in Pune. I said, see. So then she organized from wholesale me the good quality slicer.
Oh.
One consignment was parcel to us. I did not want to give it free. So I said, let's put a little price to it, because if everything is free, then, I also told them that you need to give me a list of women who want to buy, and they have to pay you this much. It was like a token thing as far as we were concerned, but for them it had a value, right? So that's how the banana chips thing started. Then David was going to other locations also, teaching salt, training people, training farmers. I would go with him to train the teachers. And banana chips making was one of the things which would be a part of the program. So that's how it went to other villages. In Puichi village, the women have actually given it a brand name and they sell it in
Wow, that's
packets
a
in the
very,
market.
yeah, brilliant outcome. I think we are almost to the end, but if Ushata is thought of something as to what you gained, I mean, you will have so
Oh,
much that you can say, I suppose, and that's the
I
problem.
I I
But
cannot begin to tell you. First
yeah.
of all, is my total appreciation for the women who live there. I cannot be saying enough what challenging circumstances they live under. In all of that, to bear at least 10 to 12 children, can you believe? There is no medical help. There is no aftercare, nothing. I learned a lot of things from them. Of course, one good thing was that living with David and always being in the rural setup and all, but to go there and see how people lived, that was a totally humbling experience. I don't think I'll ever come out of that, because even now, while we wait for the situation to change there, I'm working on a book for the children after, with my experience there, a beginner's book, something to help the people there, to support them, especially the teachers. I've trained those teachers to do these things. So to look at them and to even complain about anything is simply not there. Sujata, to put it very briefly, the meaning of the of the saying, to live a life of purpose, this is it. If you have the means and the abilities, you should step out of your comfort zone and be out there and help. You should, in whatever way we can. At 58, 60, we are looking at a retired life. With today's medical facilities available, 60 to 80, what are you doing? Nothing. You are just living off your pension or your savings and whatever else. But there's a whole population who have nothing, who are just looking for somebody to help in whatever little way. That is my takeaway from all of this, because these people, they live with so little and so wonderfully well.
Absolutely, hats off that you guys do this, but the message that you are sending is, it will touch everybody's heart anyway. But what you say is so true, because when just before I was sort of reading about you, and I thought, both of these guys get bountiful of job satisfaction for you,
Yeah.
because you may not get any enumeration as such, you may not get money for it, but just in every which way you're seeing progress, you're seeing their love for you, kids growing up, and they're really second family, second home to you guys. So yeah, calling it job satisfaction is really in a way wrong.
Yeah, just that, you know, we only took the first steps. A lot of other people joined us on this journey. So once you start doing something, then things move. It gathers momentum. People come. Circumstances also change. And you see, now it is in Meghalaya. I had not planned. Government of Meghalaya is taking interest in salt. Now Manipur is, taken a few steps back, but Meghalaya has come forward. You have to start something. Doesn't mean you have to carry the whole load. Once you start something, then things happen. That's the message I would like to leave out there.
As Shah Rukh Khan says, Puri Kainat, some dialogue from Om Shanti Om.
That was Paul Coelho. He said the original thing. No, when you set out to do something good, the universe
The
conspires
universe.
to help you. And that is
Yes.
exactly what has happened in our case. We were just two volunteers in our, that time in our late 50s, and things just happened, and now it is growing.
Sujata, I would like to put one thing which I experienced, that people came forward with so much generosity in their hearts, I just had to say that, okay, we need this. Like 40 kilos of clothes for winter would arrive over there. We found such generous people. They didn't want to be named. They wanted to remain anonymous. The goodness in human is very much over there. And people are just looking for an opportunity to help because they cannot do certain things by themselves, but they are always willing to come forward if there is a way they can help. That is also something I.
One thing I always did was, I used to post on social media, mainly Facebook. Whatever we were doing, it was quite transparent, and people who were supporting us would also read on Facebook, and then other people would read and come forward. I mean, look how we connected. It was because of my old school buddy Makrand. We have not met since we left school. There was a WhatsApp group formed, and that's how we reconnected. And when he heard about the work I was doing, he expressed interest and I invited him to Aben. He actually came to Aben. And then he's continued to support us. This actually, proves the hypothesis, that, once you do something good, set out to do something good, people just converge to assist you.
How do you tend to sort of organize your day normally when you're working?
I travel. See, when I came to Meghalaya, I told the director that I'll not sit in office. I'll only travel and visit farmers and farms. So that's what I do.
Mm.
So when I land in Guwahati, they send a 4x4 vehicle to pick me up. Guwahati is the airport, no?
Right.
For Meghalaya. And then 2 weeks I'm driving around.
That's it, straight
And
into the farms and then start.
yeah, I drive, and Meghalaya is a pretty big state. It extends from west to east, long. So I just keep traveling and visiting, and
So is
then
in Meghalaya all these places that you're visiting, they've already taken up salt, or this is something different now?
salt.
Okay, still.
I'm a salt. See, actually, when I visited Meghalaya first time in Feb last year, at the invitation of another young guy who started an NGO. He had visited Aben and seen salt,
Mhm.
and then he came and spoke to his contacts in Meghalaya that, why don't you do salt here? Then he invited me. So I came, and I was looking at the work which was going on here through, the Meghalaya Basin Development Authority, which is the government of Meghalaya. They, implement World Bank project, Japanese funded projects and all. So last year we started some small pilots, around 40 of them, and that looked good. So this year we have around 1,200 salt farmers
Oh,
in
wow.
in
Wow.
Meghalaya.
Yeah.
And now we made
And the
a salt resource center in Aben now, because we have so many visitors. So we had to have some center to conduct the training and some place to
Mhm.
house people. Batches of 20, 25 people are coming in
Oh.
a small place like Aben. So we have created that infrastructure, not very fancy, basic timber and bamboo and tin structures, but self-sufficient with
Mm.
solar power. And we made this year I made a 30,000 liter roof rainwater harvesting tank.
Ooh.
So
Yeah.
because trainings require water, right? So we
Yes,
have our
yes.
own water supply and all. Once the
Yes.
rains are over, people don't have water.
Oh, is
You
it?
know,
even in the proper house that David made, we moved there 2020. So we have 1,000 liter Syntec water tanks, which we fill rainwater. So that is our water supply. They depend mostly on the spring water, which dries up. Now this is the time that it will dry up.
like March, April, May, you would get a few showers. Then June, July, August, September would be the rainy season,
Right.
what we call the southwest monsoon.
Mhm.
And then some returning monsoon which goes to Tamil Nadu and all. No, so that
Mhm.
also rains a bit. Every time there's a cyclone in the Bay of Bengal, it will rain in northeast.
In the
Mm.
northeast.
Mm.
So it's not a continuous torrential downpour like the equatorial rainforest.
From December to February, they are reliant on water that's in the springs. No.
No, throughout the year, because even when it rains, it will rain one today, and 1 week there won't be any rain.
Oh, I see. Right, right.
And then the springs are potable water, no,
Mhm.
clean water. It's through the
Mhm.
rocks.
Mhm.
So that's their traditional water point. But right from November, December, Jan, Feb, March, April nowadays, 5, 6 months, there's a water stress. The springs are going dry because the settlement has spread. They've cut
Mm.
down the trees to
The
make
cover
more
is gone.
houses. They've cut down the timber from the forest to sell to get money, especially during COVID.
Mm.
When there was a lockdown and people had to come back to the villages, the youth were not doing anything. So they started cutting down the trees in the forest to sell.
So
So we
then,
are encouraging them to store water.
and wells, is that
No, no wells,
no
no wells.
wells? No wells.
See, the villages are situated on the ridge,
Hmm.
the high point, and on
Hmm.
either side there would be valleys. And as you go down from the ridge, there will be some springs. From the spring,
Hmm.
they collect their water. But those springs are going dry now. Like there was a new church roof put in. So I encourage them to make a 50,000 liter water tank.
Hmm.
So they put in all the labor, unskilled labor and skilled labor. And I arrange for money for the cement and the steel rods. The labor they did, and I arranged the material.
I
And now
love
they
the
have
way
a
you incentivize it
fifty
as well.
thousand
So
liter tank.
you don't say, I'll give you money. You say, okay, do this, then I'll give you
Yeah.
this much, which is so
Yeah,
good
yeah.
because then that encourages them.
People came forward to help us do all these things.
Your
Initially,
own.
we were using our own savings, even for helping the community.
Hmm.
Apart, from our own livelihood and airfare up and down, which is pretty
Yeah, yeah.
expensive. But we even had to support you dip into our pocket to, you know, buy books or buy seeds or whatever. Yeah, so people came forward to help us, and like Makaran now he's sponsoring one girl child right now
Okay.
from Aben. And
Yes.
then one of our friends stepped in to sponsor a girl who wanted to do nursing after 12. 4 years, he paid all her fees, her
Oh,
college
wow.
fees, her hostel fees, her
She's
books.
now a nurse?
And during COVID, she needed a mobile phone for, remote. So he even bought her a phone. And now she's finished her nursing now, 4 years.
Oh, oh,
She's a,
wow.
she's a qualified nurse. There are many cases like this. Once we are
Correct.
with them, we can't draw boundaries that we'll only do agriculture, we only do school. People come and say now somebody is sick, there's no money for the hire a vehicle to go to the hospital or to pay the bills in the hospital. So then
Hmm.
we have to try and organize some collection. We put
Hmm.
money first, and then
Hmm.
I try to get a reimbursement. So when people need money, then it's an emergency. I can't start looking for sponsors. So I
Yes.
pay, and then I put it out that I've spent money if anybody is interested to
Hmm.
reimburse.
Thank you. Thank you so much for making time for me and for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much.
मजा
Bye
आली
bye.
Bye
बहुत
bye, bye
good.
Sujata, bye
Thank
Usha.
you.
Now see you.
Bye, David.